got a deal, Mr. Barrett. I can send the letters out to you COD in the morning.
No, I need them sooner than that. I'm flying to New York tonight. I'll be in your shop between 9 and 10, and I'll pay in cash.
As you wish, sir.
Right.
Jadway speaking from the grave. Those letters can wipe out LaRue's contention that Jadway was a money-hungry pornographer, and we've got Isabel Vogler to put down Jerry Griffith's testimony that the book alone turned him on. We are finally getting it together.
Yeah, Donna.
There's an urgent call from Miss Osborne on 3.
Thank you. Hello, pretty lady.
Michael, I know you canceled out on me tonight because you're loaded with work, but I have to see you. It's terribly important.
I'm flying out of here tonight at 8 o'clock. I tell you what. You can pick me up and drive me to the airport, and we'll talk on the way.
I'll pick you up at 7:15. Mr. Griffith places a large amount of advertising on Dad's television stations. So naturally, you can understand how Daddy felt when he heard you were going to call a witness who would malign Frank Griffith.
How did Dad feel?
Concerned enough to pay a visit to Mr. Griffith to prepare him for any libel Mrs. Vogler might be offering.
Beautiful.
After his talk with Griffith, Dad was convinced Mrs. Vogler is a psychopathic liar.
Okay, so now you've told me the urgent news. What else?
Dad wants me to tell you any thought you have of using Isabel Vogler on the witness stand is out of the question. He was positive about that.
Oh, was he now?
I promised him that once I spoke to you, there would be no problem.
But there is a problem, Faye. I will use Mrs. Vogler on the witness stand.
You're behaving like an ass. I can't believe you give up everything to defend your little house of filth. I won't accept it.
You better, Faye, because I just can't meet your terms.
Then you are an ass, and you're second-rate, Mike, and I only have time for number 1.
You tell dear old Dad he'll just have to find himself a more willing patsy.
Go to hell!
Mr. Adams, I'm Michael Barrett.
Mr. Barrett?
That's right. I spoke to you yesterday afternoon about the Jadway letters. Oh, I know I should have been here earlier, but I got hung up in traffic. Nevertheless, I'm here. If I could see those letters, please.
But, sir, Mr. Barrett has already picked up those letters.
I beg your pardon.
A gentleman came by here a minute or two after I opened this morning. He paid the $800, and I gave him the letters, and he left immediately.
That can't be. I can prove who I am. Well, look at it!
And who the hell was it that came by here and picked up your purchase this morning?
Well, Mr. Adams, that's what I'd like you to tell me. Can you describe him for me?
Well, he was much taller than you, formal, very dignified. I really didn't pay much attention.
Well, thanks for your trouble.
I am deeply sorry, Mr. Barrett. Well, good luck to you.
Yeah. Donna, I'm catching the first flight back to the coast. Oh, before I forget, tell Clay that I'll call Sanford and brief him on his coming appearance in court.
All right.
Yeah, operator, I'd like to make a long-distance call to Miss Maggie Russell.
Hello?
Hello, Maggie. Michael Barrett here. Now, I know your rules, but I really have to see you. It's important.
Is this strictly business or business and pleasure?
Well, it's partly business, but seeing you would be a pleasure.
Won't Faye Osborne mind?
Well, we're not seeing each other anymore.
Oh. Where are you now?
Manhattan?
Manhattan?
Yep. Now it's 3:30 New York time, and I can meet you in my office 8 o'clock your time. They got away with it.
With what?
They planted a monitor in my phone. Then they decided to remove the evidence, and yours truly stumbled in on them. It's not the first time. There have been half a dozen other incidents just as incredible. Mrs. Isabel Vogler suddenly refusing to testify, the loss of some original Jadway letters, and the real stunner was the loss of LaRue, the Frenchman who first published the 7 Minutes. Now he's saying Jadway's nothing more than a squalid pornographer. And the man with the big checkbook's got the advantage.
Oh.
Very good.
Shall we? I have an early day tomorrow. And if you're going to be in shape for court, you should have been in bed an hour ago.
Why, hello, Miss Russell.
Hello, Mr. Blair.
I'll tell you one thing. Those broads are not acting. Focus. Focus! God damn it, we're missing the best part. That's better.
Where do we get this stuff, Elmo?
Norman C. Quant, S.O.B. One of these days, I'm going to throw him in the slammer and toss away the key.
Now, hold it, Elmo. He may not be an L.B. Meyer, but you've got to admit he makes great pictures. Besides, we've got to protect the public. Yerkes here.
Mr. Yerkes, I'm over here at the Days. Just 5 minutes ago, I ran into Maggie Russell, Frank Griffith's niece. And who do you think she was with? Michael Barrett, counselor for the defense.
Thanks, Blair.
Son of a bitch! God damn her! Wait until I put that girl on the carpet.
Hold it, Frank, hold it. If you kick her ass out, she could very easily be used as a witness against us. You agree, Elmo?
It's a possibility, Luther.
That's why we're not going to interfere with Maggie and Barrett. May turn out to be an advantage.
Advantage? How?
Tell her you heard that she was out with Barrett, but you're going to be just as sweet as honey. Buy her story, whatever she says. You're the great white father, trying to protect his son.
I approve, Griffith. I agree with Luther 100%.
How can she resist?
It's an inspired approach. For you, for your son, and for our common cause.
The state of California has charged an unknown bookseller named Ben Fremont with selling filth in the form of an underground novel, The 7 Minutes, which was written by an expatriate author, J.J. Jadway, over 3 decades ago. Now, this trial has generated enormous interest, and in light of impending Supreme Court hearings on the question of obscenity in films and reading matter, this case could assume a stature of national importance.
Please rise. Face the flag of our country, recognizing the principles for which it stands, liberty and justice for all. Department 101 of the Superior Court of the State of California is now in session. The Honorable Nathaniel Upshaw, judge presiding. Please be seated and no smoking.
The case of the people of the state of California versus Ben Fremont. Is the defense ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are the people ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may call your first witness, Mr. Duncan.
I call Sergeant Frank Kellogg of the County Sheriff's Department to the stand.
Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name for the record.
Sergeant Frank Kellogg, County Sheriff's Office, Administrative Vice.
Please be seated.
Sergeant Kellogg, is the man who sold you a copy of the 7 Minutes in this courtroom?
Yes, sir, he is.
Would you point him out to the court, please?
That's him.
Let the record show, Your Honor, the witness, Sergeant Kellogg, indicated the defendant, Ben Fremont, seated to the left of defense counsel. Did Mr. Fremont make any comment about the book? Any reference to its erotic explicitness?
Well, the defendant, Mr. Fremont, told me it was the most banned book in history. He said, and I quote, "It was banned in every country in the world because it was considered obscene." Those were Mr. Fremont's own words.
Your witness, Mr. Barrett.
Sergeant Kellogg, on your visit to the Argus bookstore, did you impersonate an ordinary customer?
No, sir, that's not quite true.
But since you intended to buy the book for the purposes of assembling evidence against the defendant, didn't you feel dishonest about representing yourself as a customer?
Objection. The witness's feelings are immaterial.
Objection sustained.
Forgive me, Your Honor. Sergeant Kellogg, why was it necessary to use a concealed tape recorder?
Well, that's standard operating procedure. If we were going to bust a hooker... I mean, arrest a prostitute, we'd do the same thing. That's perfectly legal.
Well, I won't bothered to comment on the ethics of those vice officers who circulate among bars trying to entrap prostitutes. But I do wonder how you feel about entrapping a respectable bookseller with leading questions and concealed tape recorders.
My next witness, in a manner of speaking, will be the book itself. I now submit that the 7 minutes be read aloud to the members of the jury, so that for the first time they may become acquainted with its contents in its entirety. Seated in the witness box is a neutral, impartial citizen, a Mr. Charles Winter, a substitute high school teacher locally who in his spare time tapes recordings for the blind and is accustomed to reading aloud without over-dramatizing or unduly emphasizing specific passages.
Objection, Your Honor. With all due deference to the blind, the prosecution's remarks are deliberately intended to appeal to the sympathy of the jury.
Objection overruled. The district attorney's description of Mr. Winter leaves no doubt of his ability to remain impartial.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, while I already have this person available, I would willingly agree to let any one of Mr. Barrett's choosing read the book aloud to the jury.
Your Honor, what I care about is the book being read aloud. A novel is not meant to be presented in such a fashion. That is my only objection.
Your objection, Mr. Barrett, is overruled. Mr. Winter may begin reading the book in manner so prescribed by the court.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Winter.
You may begin, but please address the reading to the jury.
A touch. Is that you? My other lips swell in joyous welcome. God, I have missed you. There. Now move slowly past my moist lips. Darling, let me kiss all of you. Feel me close around you in sweet embrace.
Your Honor, I would like to about one mannerism possessed by the reader, Mr. Winter, which may be prejudicial to the defense. The reader is placing undue emphasis by raising his eyes on certain passages which might be termed sexually realistic.
Mr. Barrett, I have been watching Mr. Winter closely. I am satisfied he is performing in a manner as mechanical and objective as possible for a human being. I must deny your request. Please resume, Mr. Winter.
You are so strong, and yet, when we are together, we both grow weak with the delicious perfection of our union. This is your home. This is the reason for our existence.
As a noted British publisher of quality books and a highly recognized authority in the continental trade, Mr. Van Fleet, do you feel that Jadway, the author of the 7 minutes, tried to give the reader some understanding or vision of love?
Mr. Jadway knew nothing of love. Let me tell you a favorite anecdote about Jadway. The story comes firsthand from a simply marvelous study entitled Outside the Mainstream. The author is Dr. Hiram Eberhard, a highly respected professor at Columbia University. Now, I'm going to quote from him directly.
Your Honor, I object. This supposed anecdote from that book would represent the rankest form of hearsay. I object to any reading from outside the mainstream whatsoever.
I'm conversing with